How's it going, guys? Cameron here with KD and Gamer coming at you with another video. Now today we're going to talk about Blair Witch, the game that was released for the PS4, the Xbox One, the PC, and the Nintendo Switch back in, 2019? So, as a lot of you guys know, I picked up the game recently and I paid next to nothing for it. I paid $17 and I finally dived into it head first over the last couple of days. So before we get into the game, I do just want to talk about briefly the original movie here. And you can see I've got a copy of it here, The Blair Witch Project, which came out in 1999. And so it says right on the front here, in October of 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. A year later, their footage was found. So, for any of you guys or gals out there that haven't actually seen the movie, I highly implore you to go out, seek it out, and watch it before you play the video game. Now, that being said, I wouldn't really go anywhere near the sequels. Really, it's the original found footage film is the one you're going to want to watch. And this is basically the grandfather, the granddaddy of found footage films. And yeah, it's crazy too, because I know a guy that lives in Maryland, and he claims that he went to school with I guess the girl that was in this movie. And it's crazy, when this movie came out, it attracted a lot of media attention to Burkittsville, which is a very small town, only like 150 people that live there, that reside there. And all of a sudden you've got all these tourists flocking to this small town, trying to search for the secrets of the Blair Witch in all the forests nearby. But in actual fact, if you read up on it, most of the film wasn't even filmed in Burkittsville. It was other areas in Maryland. But we're getting a bit off topic here. But it is interesting. You can look it up yourself. So, when I heard that this game was coming out, I remember seeing the original trailer for this game. I don't know if it was at E3. And finally picked it up on the PS4. And this is going to be kind of all over the map here. I didn't really write down any notes. But I didn't know it. This game was developed by Bloober, the company Bloober Team SA, which is a Polish video game developer based out of Krakow. And once I finally started playing the game, I saw similarities to some other games out there that they developed: Layers of Fear, The Observer, The Medium. So yeah, I didn't even know that this was the same team behind those games. But yeah, the game has like a VHS, like a 90s aesthetic to it. You can see here by the title screen. And it carries over throughout the gameplay. A lot of the game, you're holding this VHS sort of camcorder, and you're watching video, like little tapes that you pick up along the way. And the thing is the game, I don't want to call it a walking simulator, but there's very few instances where you're put in a position where you could die, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, throughout the game, you're basically looking for this boy who got lost in the woods. I think the game takes place like maybe 2 years after the movie. The game has no relation to any of the sequels to the film, and so you're basically tasked with going into the woods in Burkittsville to look for this young boy. And you've got this walkie-talkie, and you're communicating with the police, and you're trying to find this boy. Now, the ambience in this game is absolutely incredible, especially the use of sound. when you're walking through the forest, when you start out, you've got your sidekick dog with you, actually, if you can believe it. Your dog's name is Bullet. It's a German Shepherd. And it's pretty cool. You get going in the game, and you're finding little things here and there in the woods. You're finding photographs, trinkets. I don't want to give away too much, but it is very much similar to like a Myst style of game, if that makes sense. You're sort of walking through the woods trying to find clues. And when you pick up these cassette tapes, these red cassette tapes, they're usually about 30 seconds long worth of video. And the way it works is a lot of times when you find one, there's usually like an obstacle or a puzzle in your way. As an example, there'd be like a huge tree blocking the way forward, and the only way to remove the tree is to play the videotape back. And during that tape, you got to choose 1 second out of the 30 and stop it, and then put the tape down. And all of a sudden, you look up, the tree's gone. So the tape sort of plays a factor on manipulating and moving the objects in the world around you. It's not a bad idea, I guess. As you get further into the woods, it goes from daytime to nighttime, and then the next thing you know, you've got your flashlight and you're going through the woods, and it's scary as hell, guys. It is tense. There's some incredible jump scares. I'm not gonna lie, I did resort to looking at clues online as far as where to stop the videotapes, because if I hadn't have done that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. I just don't have the time to sit there and spend 48 hours playing a game like this. I need to get through it and get on to the next. So, you can look up the clues online and still enjoy this game very much. I didn't look up clues for everything. It's just when I got really stuck. But yeah, you get through. I don't want to give away too much, but you get part of the way through the woods, and then you come across one puzzle, and it's, man, I wanted to throw the controller at the TV. I almost rage quit. It was like, it had to do with a mine shaft. There was a cart on a rail, and there was a machine that you had to get running. It wasn't actually too difficult once I figured out what to do. And then I got through that. And so the game, you kind of get, I don't know, 60, 75% through, like, just like nothing. Like a couple of hours go by, it's like, holy shit. And it's not until you get to the actual Blair Witch, the house at the end, and you enter this house, which looks to be 3 stories tall, but then you're in this fucking house for like, it seems like half the time you're playing this game. And at the end of it, it's just like, okay, they're just sort of milking this a bit too much. And then you get through the house, all kinds of weird flashbacks are going on from when you were in the war. So the story, it does deviate pretty far from the film, to be honest with you. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. If it were up to me, I would have tried to maybe keep it close to the film. Whereas in the game here, I don't want to give away too much, but there is basically an antagonist in the game who you're trying to hunt down. And again, it's just, you could play this game without watching the film, and you'd be just fine. But once I got through the Blair Witch house and I beat the game, I got the bad ending, because there's multiple endings in this game. By the way, there is one part where you're put in a really intense moral dilemma with regards to your dog, Bullet. He gets badly wounded, and you're left with the choice of whether or not to carry him as you try to walk through the woods, or leave him to die and continue on. So that's as far as I'll go with that. You guys can play the game and experience it for yourself. But I had a real good time playing this. Probably the scariest game I have ever played. Again, incredible presentation, the way they used the ambient music and the sounds within the game. I did want to also talk about, I've got my trusty PS4 controller here. It's really cool how in the game, depending on what's happening in the game, if you're near like a bad guy, the controller will light up like red or different colors depending on what's going on. Oh, and I did want to mention that too before I forget. One of the things that really annoyed me about the game was there are actually, in a few rare instances, I don't want to call them enemies, but like they're basically witches that are in the forest. And at one point, you can actually spot them out because you're holding your video camera up and you can see them on the camera screen. And they're like these red bodies. And there's one part in the game where you have to walk through the woods and it's foggy as hell. You can't use your flashlight because if you turn your flashlight on, it's like if you're driving in fog, you're turn your high beams on and it makes it worse, right? Well, the same goes for this section in the game. You kind of have to just use your camcorder, and it's really fucking annoying. And the reason why it's annoying is because when I started playing this game, when you're on your walkie-talkie, you could hear, whoever's talking on the other end, you could hear their voices through the PS4 controller. And I knew that the PS4 had that capability, but I had not yet experienced it. So when I started hearing the voices through the controller, I'm like, oh man, that's sick. But then I quickly realized you can't really hear what they're saying. So I had the controller up to my ear like this for like 3/4 of the game, and I still couldn't quite hear what they were saying. And then I get to this point when I was talking about where you're walking through the woods, and the guy apparently was giving me instructions on when to stop, when to turn left, when to turn right. And I couldn't hear what he was saying. So if you're playing this game on the PS4, what you need to do to get around that is you have to go into the PS4 menu and turn the volume down all the way on the speaker on the controller. Turn it all the way down, and then go into the menu on the game and put it on your headset on. And so what will happen is it'll revert it back to the walkie-talkie voices in game coming out of your TV versus the controller, so you can hear what they're saying. But it was just really frustrating. Any section of this game where you had to deal with those red enemies wherever they were, especially in the mansion, in the house at the end, it was really fucking annoying because you had to turn your camcorder off because the light a lot of times will distract them and they'll come at you. And I almost rage quit quite a few times. Bad gameplay mechanics with that portion of the game. I wish they would have figured out something else. They kind of pulled sort of like they kind of stole a page out of Alan Wake as well, because there's certain areas where you could kill enemies with the light on your flashlight too, which I thought was kind of odd. And I guess the last thing I'll mention with regards to this game, one of the things that bugged me the most about it is, so it's a first-person game. You're alone throughout the game, aside from the fact that you're with your dog. But a lot of times, your character would talk to himself. And I get it, it's a video game, but I think it would have been much more realistic to just have your character maybe have subtitles on the bottom of the screen as to what he would have said, because it's just really weird when you're walking through the forest and your character says out loud, maybe I should go over to that shed. The door seems locked. I wonder what the code is for this keypad. Would you actually say these things in real life if you were... Like, just think about it. Unless you talk to yourself, that's fine. But for the most part, we think about things in our head, but we're not talking out loud. And for me, that's immersion breaking. And not only that, like at the end of the game when you're walking through the witch's house. So, like, you got to imagine if this was real life, and I know it's not, you'd be scared shitless, right? You'd be walking through this house, which is fucking dark as hell. And if you walked up to a wooden door and it was not opening, obviously you would kick the thing down. Whereas this guy just kind of walks up to any door that's locked and he's just like, seems locked. Are you fucking kidding me? I would break that door down with my bare hands if I had to get where I needed to go to get out of that house. There's little things like that the developers, maybe they're thinking about the best interest of the gameplay, whoever's playing the game, But to me, these little things, little attention to detail, it adds up. And I find this stuff is really immersion breaking when your character is fucking talking to you or talking to himself in the game. I really didn't like that. I wish there was a way you could turn that off. There might be, I don't know, but it was really, really immersion breaking. So the game was really good. It was fantastic. It wasn't perfect. The ending sort of dragged on a little bit longer than it should have. But, you know, now that I've experienced this game and I've played it all the way through, I would highly recommend it to anyone who's a fan of the 90s pop culture, the film, The Blair Witch Project, or if you like survival horror games as well, or if you're a fan of sort of like point-and-click adventures, ones where you're sort of walking around, immersing yourself in the open world. This pretty much has everything that you're looking for. And I know Dads and Lads Gaming, he's got a German Shepherd by the name of Cookie. So I think I would have to recommend this to you, Marcus. It's not terribly long. You know, they say that you can beat it in 6 hours. I'll be honest, it took me a lot longer than that. I don't know how many hours it took me, but it probably took me, I don't know, maybe 10 hours. But I had a fantastic time the whole way through. And also as well, I do want to say that the company, Bloober, that made this game, as far as like the jump scares are concerned, and the way that the characters look in the game for the most part, they don't look like 3D rendered characters you'd see in a video game. A lot of times, it almost looks like FMV, the way that the characters would run across the screen when you're in a house or in the forest. So, yeah, I had a real good time with it. I'm almost curious to pick up The Observer to see how that game is, because I know that one's kind of like a cyberpunk adventure with the late Rutger Hauer starring in the game. So I'm interested in that as well. But yeah, Blair Witch, if you can find it, if you can get a physical copy of this game. I don't know why you would want to play this on the Nintendo Switch, at least handheld mode. I don't think that would serve this game, do it justice. You really need to play this on a big screen TV, preferably with the lights off and the sound turned up. And make sure you don't have the walkie-talkie voices coming through your controller like I did. So, yeah, I had a great time with the Blair Witch. Very little to complain about. Much better than the films that followed the original. Well, it did deviate a little bit too far from the original film. It was a fantastic game to play through. And I don't want to talk too much about the game because I don't want to give too much away. But yeah, let's just say it wasn't what I was expecting. It was much better than I thought it would be, and I'm glad I didn't pay full price for it. So, other than that, guys, I'll end it on this. I picked up, of all things, a VHS at the thrift store today. Stephen King's Night Shift collection, The Woman in the Room and The Boogeyman. So I might watch this tonight. And that's it. That's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a good night.